So, yeah. Zachary, our top 5 this week from Impact is the top 5 NFL crossovers with Impact. It's time for some historical context. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready. I love a good story time.
So 2008 rolled around. Impact decided, hey, you know, it'd be great. Let's bring in Mongo McMichael. We're going to be in Chicago. What could go wrong? And everyone went, wait, what? You finally found him in that strip club? So Mongo is rocking a hairstyle that I currently have right now because I locked off my locks, yo.
Oh, you did?
I did. 12 inches and a quarter.
Oh, man.
12 inches and a quarter. Where the hell is 12 inches on a quarter? You're standing on it, dude. So, gonna send those off this week and get them donated. I gotta print out the fucking donation form. I don't know why. Fucking A. So, he's all like, what's up? This hairstyle's terrible. I'm like, yup. As someone who's rocking it, it is pretty bad. Storm and Ru get in his face, and they're like, what are you going to do? And Mongo is a former member of the Four Horsemen, but let's not remember him as that. He's also a member, if I remember correctly, of the 1985/1986, so that's when the title game was had in 86, in February of 86. Super Bowl winning Chicago Bears. The Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears, the Bears, the Bears, the Bulls, the Bears. So he's kind of an icon in Chicago sports history. Not so much in WCW sports history. So he had wrestling ties and football ties, so it made sense that he was brought in, but he was slow, prodding, and even in the segment they showed, not very good. They did this whole little spot where Storm and Rude were a center and quarterback combo, and Mongo hit Storm with a... the fuck was that move called? I played football, goddammit. I don't remember. But he went over the top on him and shoulder checked Rude in the ground. Devon tried to pin him. Mongo was completely... swim move. It's called the swim move. I remembered. Concussions. He hit him with that clothesline. Devon tried to pin him, and Mongo was all like, hey, look at me, I'm Mongo. And Devon literally screams, Mongo, get over here. And Mongo turns around, and it was bad. And that was the best part of that match. It was not great. Then again, this was a Monsters Ball match, and 2 years prior, in Bound for Glory history, they had Jake Roberts as the special guest referee. You can imagine that they didn't have a great track record at the time of Monster Ball special guest referees. I can speak. Zach, I remember watching this live and thinking, Mongo. Not the choice I would have gone with.
No.
Still looking at this, Zach, thinking, Mongo. Not the choice I would have gone with.
Time has not sweetened your view on this at all?
Nope. So we move on to number 4. It is Slammiversary 15. It's Chris Masters, or Chris Adonis, if you're nasty, tagging with Eli Drake against Moose and D'Angelo Williams, the former All-Pro, not All-Pro, maybe he was, I don't remember, former Pro Bowl running back for the Carolina Panthers.
Eli Drake.
D'Angelo came down with Gary Barnage and another football player. No, now I'm confusing myself. Moose came down at Bound for Glory the year prior with D'Angelo Williams and Gary Barnage. That's where I was getting confused. So D'Angelo Williams tags with Moose. D'Angelo Williams had all of 3 days of training with Scott D'Amore, and he looked phenomenal in this match. He had a great presence for where the camera was. He had a good athletic control over his body. Just a natural at this, and he never returned to wrestling, despite the fact he never had a job in the NFL again. Go figure. What was your thoughts on this? Because I remember at the time we were all very impressed with it. Do you still have the same belief on that?
I definitely I definitely have the same respect for this one, because this, again, the man had 3 days worth of training, so that's so most of this is really just natural athleticism and charisma that D'Angelo had. So, I mean, you give him even more time in training, and the guy could have been a star.
It's still good if he wants to be.
Yeah.
It's not like the NFL is going to come calling. Let's be honest. Christian McCaffrey's pretty damn good. Number 3 is actually going to be a string of these. In 2007, Ron Killings was still with the then named TNA, now named Impact Wrestling, and he was essentially dubbed the celebrity guy, which, to be fair, not the worst position to be in, because you're always going to be in the high-profile matches, and you're relied on enough that they trust you
Yes.
to put these matches over. Bound for Glory was his hardest one for sure, because he had to tag with Adam Pacman Jones. Now, this wasn't a big deal. Pacman was athletic in his own right. He was known as a very aggressive cornerback. So, like, all right, this could work. And then, then the NFL and the Tennessee Titans said, he can't be touched. And then everyone went, what? We already paid him. Fuck. So days before the match happens, the NFL and Tennessee Titans say Adam Pacman Jones cannot be touched in any physical context. Oh, okay, this makes everything better. So they had to redo the entire match, where instead of having a back-and-forth competitive match with Sting and tag team partner Kurt Angle, who were the TNA World Tag Team Champions at the time, let that sink in. It's pretty fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
They did a completely fucking weird-ass match where Ron Killings and Sting fought for, 8 or 9 minutes. Pointed at Karen Jarrett, and she took the dive. Told Kurt, he hit me. And Kurt told like, what? And then got in, beat Sting for Pacman, then Pacman pinned Sting, and this is Sting's Kevin Federline. If John Cena got pinned by Kevin Federline, Sting got pinned by Adam Pacman Jones. Now, to be fair, if this context was a little bit different, it wouldn't be as bad because Pacman Jones is a legitimate athlete. But
Yeah.
he didn't even touch Sting. And the sad part is he then went in Bound for Glory as tag team champion, but something good did come out of it. Because in that that night at Bound for Glory where Adam Pacman Jones as a tag team champion not only lost to AJ Styles, thus giving him a tag team title gold, but he also brought in a young Consequences Creed to replace him in the tag match.
Ooh.
Dubbing the team Truth and Consequences, which is just glorious. That Consequences Creed young man turned out to be pretty all right, because he would later be known as Xavier Woods.
Yes. And now he's no longer known as the guy that threw up in the middle of an AJ Styles match.
No, he is. And it was Amazing Red. And it was off of a kneeling Hurricane Rana.
Oh, yep, that's right. It was Amazing Red.
Yeah. And it was fantastic. So, historically, this segment doesn't hold up well at all, especially considering Sting was in his prime still. He was like 48, but he could still go. And Kurt Angle was legitimately in his prime. This is during Kurt's year of God. Mm-hmm. We did an entire breakdown of it 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
It's up on the YouTube channel. It's up on the podcast. It's up on the website, RealNerdCorp.com. 2007, the year that was. So we move on. Number 2 is a really cool moment because it's Slammiversary 2007. There was a lot of upheaval that night. Jeff Jarrett's wife had just passed away several days, or maybe like a week or two prior. So he was pulled from the event so he could take care of his children. To replace him, they had to go with Chris Harris, which meant they disrupted another tag match, which was supposed to be, if I remember correctly, Low-Key and Chris Harris versus LAX, or it was Rhino and Chris Harris versus LAX. We had this conversation before. Don't remember it. And I think it was Low-Key who ended up replacing Chris Harris. So it was Low-Key and Rhino versus LAX. But on the other side, there was a major tag team match that was going down for the first time for the World Tag Team titles. It was Team 3D versus the Steiner Brothers. Something happens. Scott Steiner tried to go surfing on a guardrail. Actually, I think Apollo kicked him in the throat, but my joke sounds funnier. Scott's throat was collapsed in on itself. He couldn't breathe. He was bleeding internally. He was going to die. The Puerto Rican doctors on the spot came up with a brand new technique to save his life. So this show had 3 major alterations to the card. Day of. But some of those ended up being pretty good. Chris Harris was in the middle of his best singles run in TNA. Rick Steiner ended up tagging in with Road Warrior Animal.
Ooh.
Yeah, pretty cool. And that LAX Rhino low-key match, really good. But going into this, you needed a match that had some type of stability, and that's when you called in two of your most consistent performers, Jerry Lynn and Ron Killings. Now, they were building up to this match well before these matches went awry, but having this match go as well as it did on this show that was in Tennessee made all the much more sense in the world. Frank Wycheck is a former Tennessee Titan. He was cool because the Tennessee Titan outfits from the late 90s and early 2000s were probably the best in the NFL. They were black with a baby blue stripe on their shoulders. Their helmets were that circle with the T and the flames. It was really fucking cool. They looked awesome. And this was during the era of neck pads and shoulder pads. Not shoulder pads, neck pads and, what are they called? Neck rolls. And basically what these things would do is they would go underneath your shoulder pads, and it would protect your neck from snapping too far back. And Frank Wycheck was one of the only tight ends who used this. But in using it, he looked like a goddamn knight. So I always thought he was cool as shit. But he had just retired maybe 2 years prior or maybe a year prior due to head injuries. He was like, I'm done getting hit in the head. So they build up to this match. It's James Storm and Ron Killings, and they're taking shots at the Titans. Jerry Lynn steps in. Frank Wycheck, one of the greatest Titans of all time, alongside guys like Eddie Jordan and Steve McNair. He steps up and goes, "Wait a minute, fella. I'd like to have some words." Ron Killings, as we would see later on in the year, as we just talked about, would tag with Adam Pacman Jones. So he's already been involved now in 2 NFL-related tag team matches. The thing is, I would have rather have just seen Killings versus Jerry Lynn.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've ever had a match together. I feel like they have. But I cannot be sure.
I feel like they had to have had a match together in the
early days.
NWA pay-per-views.
Yes. I feel like that would only be sensible. So, Wycheck looked all right. Jerry Lynn was phenomenal. Killings looked pretty good. Storm was still kind of Stormish at the time. He was a good tag team wrestler, but you could tell he wasn't into this match. But there was a cool scene where I think it was Storm gets to the ringside, and then current Pro Bowl defensive end, former Arizona Cardinal, current Tennessee Titan, Kyle VandenBosch, was all like, "You want to go? You want to go? You want to go?" And then Storm pushed him and then realized it was in that moment I knew I fucked up. And Kyle VandenBosch just bum rushed him and dropped him on his ass. Don't fuck with Kyle VandenBosch. The Tennessee Titans win the day. Storm and Killings limp off, and Killings just started to make a mental note. Lost to retired tight end. Swear to God, if they make me tag with a cornerback who can't wrestle, I'm going to be super fucking mad. And then they did. And then he asked for his release. That's going to be one of those that I think is the hardest to accept, because Killings was really well used in TNA, truthfully, comparatively to his WWE run. Just saying.
Yeah.
Then number 1, Brian Urlacher shows up and decides to get in the face of Don Callis and the redshirt security. Now, Brian Urlacher, for those who don't know, was arguably the best linebacker at his position, the middle linebacker, during his tenure in the NFL. He was a former New Mexico State, is it New Mexico? I think it's just New Mexico. Former New Mexico strong safety before he added about 40 pounds of muscle during his time in college. Then he got drafted in the first round by the Chicago Bears and became a staple in the revival of the Bears' defense in the early 2000s. Him and Ray Lewis battled every year for who was the best middle linebacker. This point in time was 03, I believe. 04. So he's in the midst of his best run yet. He goes to TNA, and the entire idea was to build up to a match with him. But he's told prior to the stuff, you can't be physical. Well, he doesn't listen, and he ends up knocking down all members of the Red Shirt Security and then throws Johnny Fairplay into the Red Shirt Security as Don Callis laughs maniacally. By the by, Don Callis has hair.
It's rather absurd looking hair.
It's definitely feathery.
Very feathery.
It's very floppish.
Yes.
It has lift and hold, but I don't think it has volume.
No.
So Urlacher then gets fined by the Chicago Bears, and the match that they were building to was nixed. Urlacher, though, says he has no regrets about it. This goes hand in hand later on with a story of Urlacher getting into a near confrontation with one of the baddest men in the history of pro fighting. Zach, have you ever heard of the name of Bas Rutten?
I have.
Bas Rutten was a Pancratian, a Pride and UFC fighter. I think he won titles in 2 of those. 3 of those, actually. No, he didn't win in Pride. No, I think he came close. One of the best fighters of all time. And easily could have done more damage, but his body just took too much wear and tear, and he had to retire. Well, there was a confrontation in 2004, I want to say, maybe 2005. Bas Rutten was at some kind of Super Bowl NFL kind of party and accidentally stepped on Brian Urlacher's foot. Rutten, who's a very nice man in real life, apologized. My bad. Let me buy you a beer. Urlacher, towering over Rutten, decided to say, why don't we take this outside instead? Rutten, who knows how to kill you in 35 different ways, and one of those being comedy, goes, okay, sounds like fun. When they arrive outside, somebody has informed Urlacher who Rutten was, and Urlacher apologizes. Profusely. And Rutten, being the man that he is, goes, not a big deal. Let's just enjoy the night. But let's be honest, Rutten was a little disappointed. I think we know this. So, moral of the story is, Urlacher is always going to be involved in these dumb stories, and I love it.